The Xfinity Series and Cup Series drivers took to the Roval this past weekend, where 4 drivers were eliminated from championship contention, and we are going to break down each race. We're going to go over the race winners as well as the drivers who were eliminated from the playoffs. We will also take a look at Chase Briscoe's late run to keep his championship hopes alive and the comments made by Erik Jones later. Also, we're going to discuss, does NASCAR have a morale problem in their Cup Series garage? We discuss that and more on this episode of 3 Wide. On Saturday, we had the Xfinity Series taking to the track on the Roval. This was their playoff cutoff race as well as they get ready for the round of 8. AJ Allmendinger, he gets his 4th straight Roval win, 2nd win in a row overall this season. And the top 10 behind him was Ty Gibbs in 2nd with Noah Gragson in 3rd. James Davison finished 4th with Justin Allgaier in 5th. Alex Labbe 6th. Brandon Jones finished 7th with Josh Berry in 8th. Ryan Sieg 9th and Landon Castle 10th. And there were some incidents on the track that I wanted to go over. Chris Wright, who was driving the number 68 car for Brandon Built Motorsports, he wrecks early going into the chicane, I believe, and it was just another big blow for this small team. Meanwhile, Brandon Brown, who has been the driver for that 68 car for most of the season, he finishes in 20th, driving for BJ McLeod Motorsports. And I just got to hold on to hope that Brandon will be able to get the sponsorship he can to get back in that 68 car next year, or at least get in a secure ride next season. And because Brandon has shown his worth, even when he hasn't been running that 68 car, he has finished pretty decent in other teams' equipment. And then when he hops back in that 68 car, he drives a lot better, has a lot better finishes than anyone that has filled in for him, namely Chris Wright, who doesn't have a lot of experience in the Xfinity Series. So, like I said, tough blow for this small team. Hopefully they got better days ahead, as well as Brandon Brown. Meanwhile, you have Marco Andretti, who is making his Xfinity debut. He ends up wrecking out while running 20th after an incident where Jeb Burton and Anthony Alfredo, who are teammates, they had a little incident in between turns 5 and 6. Alfredo gets into the back of Burton and spins him out, and Marco runs right into the side of Burton's car and mentioned on the radio that he had hurt his wrist again. Now, back when they were running the SRX series that Marco won the championship for, Marco had broken his wrist, had to have surgery on it. Hasn't given any updates as far as if he re-injured that wrist, but he did mention it was hurting him pretty good after the wreck. It was a pretty solid hit he had. But he did mention he hopes to do more races in the Xfinity Series, which I would love to see, just because Marco, I was around him a little bit at the SRX race in Pensacola. Just seems like a great guy, great personality for the sport, easy guy to pull for, and I think would be good for the sport. It's always nice when you have these crossover drivers, and we had quite a few of them over this past weekend. But going back to Jeb and Anthony, they wound up having words on pit road post race. And looking back at the replay, I couldn't tell if Anthony had maybe bounced off the curbing coming out of turn 5, and that sent him into Jeb or not. But either way, Jeb was not real happy to be spun out by his teammate. They had quite a few words back and forth going over previous incidents. I don't know if they've had some running in to each other on the track before this week. Obviously, there were some harsh feelings between each other in the post-race conversation. I understand Jeb's frustration. He's, always struggled with getting secure sponsorship. And here he is, it seems like having to fight for his ride again. Not real sure what he's going to do next season. Get spun out by a teammate, having a decent run, running in the top 15, and effectively his day is over. So frustration building up over in that R Motorsports camp. I'm not sure what their driver lineup is going to look like next year. Right now, it seems like Anthony is the one with the more secure sponsorship out of all the drivers they've had this season. So Jeb, I'm sure, is just trying to make an impression so he can continue his racing career, but that took a big hit over the race on Saturday. Meanwhile, Riley Herbst, his playoff hopes were ruined on a late restart. They had a restart there at the end, and at the moment, Riley was up 4 points above the cut line when James Davison runs into the back of him on the restart before they even make it to turn 1, caused some severe damage on Riley's car, and then Riley hurt. He ends up getting a flat, has a caution thrown for that because he throws the tire, caution for debris. makes his way back up to where he's right there, just a few points below the cut line. There's still a chance for him to make it on these overtime restarts they had. And he wounds up spinning out on one of the overtime restarts, knocking the wall pretty good. You could tell, I mean, it busted his radiator. They had to haul the car out of there. He just could not get it going. And that knocked him out of the race and of the playoff field. And when the checkered flag fell, you had Herbst eliminated, as well as Jeremy Clements, Ryan Sieg, and defending champion Daniel Hemrick. And I was 4 for 4 on my predictions on who would get eliminated. I'm not happy with that 4 for 4 pick. I was hoping to see Hemrick and Herbst, make a pretty good run in the playoffs. I feel like Herbst could have. He's had speed all year, had a decent season, but unfortunately, all 4 of those drivers will no longer be competing for the championship. And the next 3 races to set up the championship 4 at Phoenix is at Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. At Vegas, I feel like Ty Gibbs is going to be the one to watch. I think he can get the win there to lock himself into that championship 4 race. At Homestead, I'd watch Noah Gragson. He's really good at ripping the top, which is crucial to success at Homestead. You can really use that momentum to come off the corner going down the straightaway. And at Martinsville, I would watch for Sam Mayer. He's a good short track racer, won his first truck race at Bristol. And I feel like if he's going to break through and get a win, that could be the place to get it. But do not count out Josh Berry. Josh Berry's kind of the sleeper of Junior Motorsports. There's always talk of, what his future looks like. Is he going to have the sponsorship to run next season as well? And it would be unfortunate if he does struggle to get sponsorship for next season, because Josh is a heck of a racer. To me, honestly, if I had to pick one driver I want to see win the championship, it would be him. He is going to be one to watch in all 3 races. He's the defending winner at Vegas. Homestead, I feel like, would be a good track for him. And Martinsville, that's where he won his first career Xfinity race. So Josh, I feel like, can easily sneak in there and lock himself into the championship 4 and be that key entry for Junior Motorsports into Phoenix. Now moving on to the Cup Series race, and there was a lot going on in this one. Christopher Bell, he comes through with a clutch victory after some late caution drama to advance to the round of 8. He was in a must-win position. He comes through after a couple late cautions, and the top 10 behind him was Kevin Harvick in second, Kyle Busch in third, AJ Allmendinger finished 4th with Justin Haley in 5th, Chris Buescher finished 6th with Bubba Wallace in 7th, Tyler Reddick finished 8th, Chase Briscoe 9th, and Austin Dillon rounded out the top 10. And this race was caution free besides the stage breaks until you had a caution come out with 6 to go after a sign was seen on the track coming out of turn 6. Now there's some debate as far as how long the sign was on the track, and even Chase Elliott, who had a huge lead at the time, 3 to 4 second lead over AJ Allmendinger, he was unsure of how long it was out there. He didn't notice it. Meanwhile, you had Denny Hamlin saying that sign was there possibly at the end of 2, at least no later than the beginning of the final stage, which means it sat out there for quite a while till TV cameras caught it. And then all of a sudden, bam, you got a caution, because it was really kind of a snooze fest of a race. Like I said, Chase, he had a huge lead on AJ, looking to be cruising to his 6th win on the season and just further getting more playoff points to solidify himself for that Phoenix championship race. But this led to a chaotic final restart with 4 laps to go. Christopher Bell, he had come in, got fresh tires. He was running in the top 10 at the time. Austin Cindric, he elected to stay out for track position, which left him just 1 point above the cut line. And when the green flag fell, AJ, he ran Chase wide, right coming out of the turn 1, which led to AJ getting the lead for a brief second until Kevin Harvick got behind him and knocked him out of the way coming out of turn 3. And then coming around turn 6 again, Tyler Reddick winds up spinning Chase Elliott out of the way. Really kind of pinched the corner. Chase, I think, wasn't expecting Tyler to be there, at least that late into the corner. But ultimately, that spun out Chase, ending his shot at the win. And then you had a multi-car wreck in the chicane on the back straightaway. Caution comes out because you had pieces of the bump stop on the track. They had to get that fixed. And Christopher Bell had taken those new tires and worked his way up to second. And it was going to be interesting if that race stayed green, if they were going to be able to, if Christopher was going to be able to run down Kevin Harvick. But with this restart, that put Christopher Bell on new tires versus Kevin, who was on old tires, and it really wasn't much of a battle. Christopher took the lead and set sail from there. He gets his second win on the season, and after all said and done, you have Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, and Daniel Suarez eliminated, along with Alex Bowman, who is still out with those concussion-like symptoms. And so in both the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series, your reigning champions are eliminated in this one weekend. And that one caution for a sign in the Cup race led to this moment, because at the time you had Larson was above the cut line and looked to be like he was in good shape to get to the next level. Unfortunately, just was not able to. Briscoe, he overcomes an 11-point deficit when they were getting ready for that overtime restart. He had fresh tires, was able to make up some ground, and had a little bit of help from Cole Custer, which leads us to our next topic. NASCAR announced they are investigating into Cole Custer over the last lap when it seemed like he brake checked the drivers behind him going into the back straightaway chicane, allowing Briscoe to get by him and Eric Jones, pick up two valuable points because at the time he was tied with Kyle Larson for that final cutoff spot. Now, they did say Chase would have won the tiebreaker because he had the better finish in this round, but better safe than sorry. Chase gets those 2 points and is able to advance, eliminating Kyle. What's interesting is NASCAR says they're investigating Cole Custer, but it will not change anything about the round of 8. Uh, as far as the drivers, it's not like they're going to go pull Chase Briscoe out of the playoffs. So that leads me to ask, then why investigate it really at all? To me, this seems like a lose-lose for NASCAR. I mean, if you're opening the investigation and you find that Custer did help Chase Briscoe make it to the next round, what are you going to do? Are you going to go after Custer, who, you know, you're going to take some owner points away from him, fine him? I don't know what they would do to Cole at this point, but still, if you're telling teams, hey, we're going to penalize the driver who isn't in the playoffs, we're going to fine y'all this and that, but you can keep your playoff spot still and go for a championship. Well, then teams are going to take that every time. They'll take that risk if that means they can still have a shot at the championship. But then, you know, teammates helping one another, that happens. That's nothing new. And we already know what a mess it was back when the Richmond deal happened. I believe it was 2011 with Clint Boyer and Michael Waltrip Racing, where they made a 13th spot for a driver, Jeff Gordon, to be in the playoffs. At the time, it was just 12. And that was a mess, and it's still kind of a running joke to this day that NASCAR did that. So to me, like I said, it's a lose-lose. You're not going to come out on the better end of this. Teammates, they help each other all the time like this. This isn't something new. And to me, this is much different from that Richmond incident with Michael Waltrip Racing, where you had Clint Boyer spinning out seemingly on purpose. You have, the crew members on the radio with Brian Vickers telling him to pit now, and Brian questioning it, which trying to get the best spot they could in the playoffs, getting Martin Truex Jr. in. And to me, this is completely different from that. Just because this deal with Cole on the back straightaway, it did not change the complexion of the race. This was just Cole blocking a couple guys from their position, allowing his teammate to get ahead of him. It's not like Cole went out there and spun out and just let the car sit there, and you throw a caution and the whole race goes into turmoil. We'd already had that with this sign caution. And I'm not saying I like it, but that's just the way it is with what happened with Cole and SHR. But and you're going to see more of it. Honestly, who knows what else we'll see before the end of these playoffs. It has been a wacky season and even wackier playoffs, and it don't look like. I mean, with the tracks we still got coming up, Homestead, Martinsville, and even the championship race at Phoenix. I hope everything goes smooth there, just so NASCAR doesn't come out with it with a black eye, and you don't have fans, pretty much demonizing whoever the champion is, that it wasn't a real championship win because he had either help from a teammate or because somebody got taken out during a caution or some cheap payback move to get them the championship. But going back to Briscoe, he makes the playoffs. Eric Jones was not happy with Chase Briscoe. That's one of the drivers that Custer blocked and allowed Briscoe to get by. And after Briscoe had interviewed with Bob Pockrass. Bob posted the video. Briscoe talking about how great it is to be in the next round, all that he overcame and went through to get to that point of the race. Eric gets on Twitter and replies, it's saying it's not hard to run over everyone. When told by Brian Murphy in a reply, "Don't hate the player, hate the game," Eric Jones replies, "The players should respect the game." And I find it funny, this is coming after Eric Jones had spun out another playoff driver, Austin Cindric, in the chicane just before that final caution came out to set up the overtime restart. Briscoe, to me, raced like he should have. I didn't see anything just overly aggressive. I didn't see him door slamming guys and putting them, in the grass or knocking them where they missed the chicane. Briscoe raced like he should have, and if he raced aggressively, that's what's expected of him in this playoff format. That is the way it is set up to be, for drivers to go out there, drive over their heads sometimes, to be over aggressive, and do what they got to do to get every point they can. This is what NASCAR wanted. They wanted the drama. They wanted those TV ratings. They want people to watch the sport. And to me, Chase did just that. He did his job, and he's going on to race for a championship. He's made it to the next round. And if you want to survive and continue your hunt for a championship, you have to race with this aggression. If the roles were reversed, Eric Jones would have done the same thing. His team would expect him to do the same thing, or else they'll get somebody in there who will do that. It's just the NASCAR world we're living in now, where you have to race like that. That is this whole playoff format. And keeping it all on some post race comments and incidents as well. Chase Elliott got some attention on post race. He was standing on pit road chatting with William Byron, seemed to be waiting to be interviewed. I saw Claire Lang there, who's with the radio Sirius XM, waiting to be interviewed by her. But a camera comes up behind Chase and William, just getting kind of some shots as Kyle Petty and Marty Snyder and them are discussing the post race. And Chase turns around, starts and pushes the camera away, saying, "Go away." And the cameraman, he backs up a little bit, gives him a little bit of space, but continues filming like his job is supposed to be. Chase then turns around, starts to walk towards him, and effectively just pretty much starts shooing them off, like you're trying to shoo someone one away, saying, "Go on." And like I said, both seem to be waiting to finish up interviews. And you have comments on social media about Chase, about this incident, and it ranges from, y'all need to leave Chase alone, Chase Elliott haters, to saying Chase should be fined and docked points for this incident. Everybody needs to just calm it down. Yes, this deal seemed unprofessional, but it was also out of character for Chase. Chase normally isn't like that. He's pretty good. He's good with the media. That's not his attitude he has. And I mean, it's simple. He's obviously frustrated. He was frustrated with the finish, with the caution, and he's been frustrated with this new car. He's been making comments like Harvick, like Hamlin over the past few weeks. And I think he just had a rough day, and he's just wanting to chat with William Byron. Now, granted, the cameraman's doing his job, not doing anything wrong. It's not like he walks right up in Chase's ear and sticks the camera there. You're on pit road. It's a post race show. You're kind of open to be on camera. You're a playoff driver. You're also the most popular driver in the sport. You got to expect cameras on you at all times. And like I said, I get it. Chase is probably frustrated. So I see both sides of it. Main thing is everybody just needs to kind of take a breath. Let's quit making a mountain out of a molehill, and just understand these guys are frustrated. And that leads me to my next topic. Driver morale just seems to be at an all-time low with these drivers. The guys seem like they are just simply trying to finish out the year. You watch their interviews, and there's just no charisma there. There's no personality there for the most part. It's kind of just the status quo, the same old, same old. And I think a lot of it is with this car and the way the seasons went. The car right now, you have 3 drivers out with injuries, and NASCAR met with the drivers this past weekend at the Roval. This was their first meeting with them since all this stuff happened. NASCAR officials hadn't met with the drivers when the deal happened with Kurt Busch, when the deal happened with Bowman and Cody Ware. It took a lot of drivers opening up their mouths and letting their opinions be known, And now NASCAR's just coming forward and having this meeting with them. So there's a lot of frustration there, and I get it. These guys are going out there with a car that now they're complaining about the passing. It's just not a good car. Here we go to Martinsville. You're not going to see any passing, and we're afraid to back the car into a wall, or we're going to be out with a concussion, could ruin our season and our championship hopes. The tension's at an all-time high right now. I think the drivers have said they're done acting like it's all great. We're happy to be here. And Chase even told Matt Weaver in an interview post race, and talking about the racing and the passing, says it's going to get worse. And Denny Hamlin's even mentioned Martinsville is going to be probably a little bit of a snoozer, saying there's not going to be any passing. Now, I don't know if there's or not. Now, the drivers, they've been to these tests. They've seen all this stuff. They know better than me. I'm not going to act like they don't. But I'm one of those, let's wait and see what happens. But if that is the case, if we come out of Martinsville and it is a snooze fest, you don't have any passing, you have drivers struggling to get any track position, drivers are going to be speaking out even more. So like frustrations are high, and I think you can see it week in, with each passing week with these drivers' interviews. I think they're just done. They're wanting to see some changes, and they're probably, I think, ready to wash their hands of this season. Unfortunately, it's sad. As great as this season started, even all the way up, I would say, to the playoffs. Before Alex Bowman's injury, everything seemed to be going great. Even, you did have Kurt out with a concussion. That was concerning. Drivers, were obviously questioning the safety of this car, and it seemed like when Alex Bowman got taken out with his concussion, it just ramped everybody's, attitude and tension and disgust with this car up to a whole nother level. So hopefully we make it through the rest of the season without anyone else having to get out of this car because of an injury. Hopefully we see Alex Bowman and Kurt Busch and Cody Ware all come back 100%, able to race again. But the main thing is their health, getting back to 100%, especially when you're coming back from head injuries like Kurt and Alex are. And NASCAR's, they've made some changes to this car they're going to have in place for next season, and maybe that will help fix the rear crash impacts for these drivers, because something's going to have to give, I think, before these drivers just throw up their hands and say, what are we doing out here? And that will wrap up this week's episode of 3 Wide. As always, thank you for joining me and listening along. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast from. Also, be sure to leave me a review. Let me know what you think of the show. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. We will meet back same time next week and discuss all that went on at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.